Okay, now we're actually live. I didn't realize we hadn't gone live yet. So I was just talking about Schisandra, God Chemical. I will break this down in its full capacity in a video moving forward. What's been on my mind lately is zinc. Okay, zinc. We're always looking for alternatives to aromatase inhibition, right? And look, I've relied on an AI at various points in my TRT tenure to reduce estradiol just a little bit, right? And it's usually in the context of like when erectile quality starts to suffer, libido starts to suffer, etc. I really don't get itchy nipples or any kind of weird fucking estrogen effects other than potential overstimulation when it gets too high. And I've let it get too high before as an experiment. Now, a lot of people think that zinc is an aromatase inhibitor, right? And there's really one, I think it's the examine.com article on zinc, or like aromatase inhibitor alternatives, I forget, which it references this one paper where people that are zinc deficient have more estrogen, right? And end up having a little more DHT or something. And so that has translated to zinc is an AI. People on some of the forums conclude or suggest that zinc, supplemental zinc, can be used as an aromatase inhibitor. And I really did a deep dive in the scientific literature across many different medical journals, and I've not been able to substantiate that is the case. I've just not been able to definitively conclude that zinc inhibits aromatase. Interestingly, though, on the Wikipedia article on aromatase inhibitors, they list zinc as an AI, but they're actually referencing this sort of pseudo connection between zinc and aromatase via the same article that, examine.com is referencing, where if you're zinc deficient, you have more aromatase. So I don't think you can actually pair the two. I don't think you can make that conclusion. However, there's a couple things that I want to show you guys, which I find really interesting, that I think you're going to find interesting too, about zinc and its ability to, we'll do a lot of things. Number one, inhibit prolactin secretion, which we haven't talked about. But importantly, modify the SHBG in a way which, like, the SHBG has a lower affinity for estradiol, which would end up meaning that estradiol ends up getting transported less to ERA and ERB receptors. Let me see if I can find that paper. Is it this one? Yeah, it's this paper. It's got to be this paper. Hold on, boys. I really want to show you this. Why am I having like the craziest technical issues? Huh. Okay. Well, anyway, this would be the paper here. Okay, cool. This would be the paper to look at, okay? This paper is titled Effective Replacement of Zinc Zinc on Estrogen Receptor DNA Interactions, where it basically goes to talk about, I'm not sure this is the SHBG one. I'll try to get to that in a second here. This is where they identified that the zinc finger, okay, which is pretty complex, and I'm really getting deep into what the zinc finger is, but it's really a bunch of zinc ions that modulate DNA interactions on the estrogen receptor alpha in a way which, what I think is happening here is where people get lowering of estradiol when they take zinc, because it certainly is going to lower estradiol. I ran an experiment on it and I ended up pissing my brains out because I took the estradiol too low. Is that, zinc is contributing to a bunch of zinc ions on the zinc finger, which is modifying the post-receptor binding genetic activity of estradiol on the ERA receptor. Okay. So that's, in short, mechanistically what I think, I've got to do further research on this, is happening, where zinc actually does lower fucking estrogen. And you're really talking about 50 milligrams a day. I mean, you could go up to 75. You might run into copper, lack of copper symptoms. I don't really know. It's kind of internet theory. I've not run into it, and I've been taking zinc lately. This is the other paper, okay? Where basically it's long and exhaustive, but they essentially conclude that zinc greatly reduces the affinity for the SHBG for estrogen. Okay, which would technically mean that that SHBG can't transport estradiol to receptors, in a reasonable way or in a normal way, which would ultimately mean less estrogen receptor binding, more free estradiol. So that's a difficult one to say if that's going to be effective or not, but less estrogen receptor binding potentially. I've got to continue doing the research on this, so I just wanted, this is very preliminary, but look, anecdotally, a lot of people do get a positive result from zinc when they're on TRT to lower estradiol. If you did not know, zinc is also an inhibitor of prolactin. Okay, zinc at pretty high concentrations. I think you'd have to dose 50 milligrams, 75 milligrams a day, which is going to take the estradiol down almost definitely. For people that don't aromatize a whole lot, then you would get inhibition of prolactin secretion. Okay, it's unclear to me if this is strong enough, like comparable to Schisandra, which is also a prolactin inhibitor, but it's very strong at doing that. And I can almost definitely say that it's not as powerful as cabergoline. So those are the primary topics. And then again, lastly, before we get into questions here, let me just look and see how many questions we have. Okay, cool. If you guys got questions, ask them. I will get them in the chat. Lastly, let's talk about daily Cialis. Now, this is a pretty popular topic in the TRT community because, first of all, it gives guys harder erections. But secondly, there's some cardiovascular benefits to it. There's blood flow optimization benefits. I've even covered and done some deep dives on how Tadalafil daily can optimize the brain post-stroke in some instances in the research, but also anecdotally kind of gives people their brain performance back when they had shitty brain performance for a while. And likely, likely that has to do with optimized blood flow in the brain, which to me is pretty impressive. Usually what people go for on daily Tadalafil is 5 milligrams a day. Okay, 5 milligrams a day. However, 10 milligrams a day, if you can tolerate it, and a lot of doctors prescribe 10 milligrams a day of Tadalafil, is actually way more effective when it comes to erectile quality, right? Because you've got more PDE5 inhibition. You maybe extend the half-life a little bit, or you extend the potency within what is ultimately a 36-hour half-life, but really where the effect duration window is 5 to 10 hours. People confuse the half-life with the window within which Cialis is the most effective, which is the first 5 to 10 hours. Okay, so keep that in mind. I hope that that's been useful as an introduction. And if you got questions, post them. What's up, bro? Hope you're great. Anybody else here got questions? Post them. We've got a lot to talk about. For those of you that just jumped in to the chat, welcome. We were just talking about how Schisandra is a god chemical, and I'm going to do an entire breakdown of the efficacy of Schisandra for a lot of things. Number one, erectile function. Okay, I just learned that, it's like relaxing cavernosal tissue and smooth muscle tissue in the male penis, which is facilitating erection quality. It's used as an aphrodisiac, I think, in Ayurveda. Got to double check that, but certainly out there on the web. In the world, it could have been maybe Chinese medicine. It's one or the other. And one of the reasons I think that Schisandra is a very, very potent libido enhancer is because it increases dopamine concentrations, probably in the hypothalamus, which inhibits prolactin. Okay. So this is really, really something, guys. There's also additional benefits of taking Schisandra, like anti-inflammatory benefits and more, which I'm going to break down in a full video breakdown of Schisandra. Okay. So look forward to that. Got a question from Mal N. Hey, reason for high heart rate when on Cialis. Yeah, the reason that would probably happen is because your blood pressure is dropping a little bit. Tadalafil has the ability to do that. All PDE5 inhibitors have the ability to do that. And as a result, your heart rate compensates for that and speeds up. So your heart is pumping more blood to sort of compensate for what it is seeing as I wouldn't call it dangerous, but, minorly troublesome, drop in blood pressure. That's basically what happens. This happened to me when I first started taking Tadalafil. I want to say that lasted maybe 4 or 5 days, and then it stopped thereafter. Now, if I were to ever, which I have never really needed to, there's no instance in which I feel like 20 milligrams of Tadalafil is necessary. But for people with, erection dysfunction or whatever, probably 20 milligrams is going to be quite effective. For most people, of course, unless it's prolactin causing the issue. Then I would almost definitely have rapid heart rate, and I'd probably have some of the sinus congestion and all the weird other side effects, etc., that are caused by it. So anyway, to avoid that, no, I would just say continue taking it and see how you fare. Maybe consume a little more salt so that your blood pressure doesn't drop in a way which makes your heart rate have to compensate and go very fast. That's essentially what's happening here. Pizzetti got a question about Adrafinil. Adrafinil causes a headache, lethargy, and bad mood. What could be the cause? Hard to say. Adrafinil is like the prodrug of modafinil. So when you administer it, it actually converts to active modafinil, which is pretty exciting because, Adrafinil is not a drug. It's considered a supplement. So you can get a supplement that essentially mimics modafinil, which is pretty fucking awesome. It's not without side effects though. I mean, modafinil, like its mechanism of action is to increase the function of the erection system, which is keeping you awake and preventing sleepiness, which is why people get good brain performance from it. But it's also a dopamine reuptake inhibitor. So you got this extracellular dopamine around in synaptic spaces, binding to receptors, activating D1, D2, D-like family receptors, and then you're having a dopaminergic response. Why that would cause a headache and lethargy is pretty difficult to tell, right? I would wager, because that's not a normal response, I would wager that it's having some interaction with your physiology. I don't know what's wrong with you or what your blood looks like, etc., but it is likely that there's something wacky going on with your physiology that is triggering this to happen, okay? So you've got to look into that and try to figure out what that is. Other than that, I think that the aphenols can increase histamine release. So if you got like high levels of histamine and you're not used to that, or if your body responds particularly poor to that, then, that could be part of the issue. All right. If you guys got questions, ask them. Are we in subscriber only mode? Is that why? Yeah, possibly. I don't know what you guys are doing this weekend, but today's going to be for me. I mean, I think it's going to be 65, 70 degrees today, but a little shitty. My life has been, over the last week, it's been, a lot of business stuff going on. A lot of really interesting stuff going on in my personal life, which I'm happy about. Also, though, my car's in the shop again. So I got a BMW 7 Series, and that thing, it's at 80,000 miles at this point. And so at 80,000 miles, shit starts going fucking wrong on cars. And my car at this stage is no different. There's a lot that is going wrong right now. I got to get the condenser swapped out because the AC is blowing warm air. The front left and rear driver's side suspension springs have failed. Okay, replacing suspension springs on a BMW 7 Series is like very costly. The bill's about $8,000. So, car's in the shop, and they gave me a little 4 Series as a loaner, little dinky 4 Series. So I'm not very happy about. I don't care about the 4 Series. I just want my car back, and I want it to function well. All right, for those of you that got questions, if you got questions, post them. If subscriber only mode is preventing people from posting questions, I'll see if I can change that. I don't think that I can, though. Buddies. Let me just make sure. No? Madeline, any experiment with psychedelics? Yes, of course. I mean, when I was young, I took actual LSD. I had an interesting time. It was around Christmas, and so me and my girlfriend at the time were driving through this place in the Lehigh Valley where they have what was it? Lights at the Parkway. They have lights, just Christmas lights every fucking where. So here I am on LSD driving through this crazy light thing, this light show. And it was pretty amazing, man. I actually felt really good. I felt physically very good and loving, interestingly. But the lights became a little, maybe aggressively distracting because they looked very different than they normally look. And I was a lot more interested in said lights when I was looking at them. Subsequently, I think I dosed literally from the same batch of acid. This was, I must have been 16 or 17. And I was by myself, and I had a very, very bad time. I just started thinking a bunch of negative shit, and then that cascades completely out of control. This is the thing you got to worry about with LSD, psilocybin. If negative things are going on in your life, and you're under the influence of, some sort of massive serotonin receptor agonist, which, these are primarily the 5-HT2A receptor. Well, then, you can end up spiraling into a world of negativity, otherwise known as a fucking bad trip. So that did happen to me when I was 16, the second time that I dosed acid. I have microdosed psilocybin many times. The last time I did that was maybe 4 years ago. There was a stint of about 6 months where I was doing it on and off, and it helped me to a large degree. Until one day, I think I dosed a little too much. I was just pushing the upper threshold, and I actually ended up having psychedelic response, which was not good because at the time I was in a bad relationship and things were fucking terrible. So that's that. Okay. John Doe is saying, any thoughts on Yohimbine HCl? Yeah, I think stay the hell away from it if I were you. Well, look, it's going to improve erection quality for guys. It's going to stimulate some people to the point of like a comfortable brain energy state. However, with Yohimbine, because it's so powerful, you are more likely to tip the scales into overstimulation. And that feels very bad and can lead to a panic attack. It's happened to me before. On, I think it was 7 milligrams, I ended up getting powder Yohimbine because I was just trying it for erection function when I was in my early 30s, because my testosterone basically crashed at 33. I had to figure that out. And Yohimbine was useful for erectile function, but it made me feel like dude, how can I even explain it? Like a full-blown panic attack, bro. I mean, like physical sensation anxiety. It felt very fucking terrible. I did not like it. However, you may not respond to it in a negative way, and you might get erectile benefits from it and ultimately end up feeling pretty energized. Josh, I'm an overweight guy. When I had dose 150 milligrams testosterone cypionate and 1400 IU of HCG, I saw my blood test high levels of bad cholesterol and estradiol 55. My prolactin levels were also at 11. Prolactin really is an issue at this, in this particular case. Yeah, man, look, testosterone has the ability to fuck with your lipids. There's no question. If you're dosing 150 milligrams of testosterone at once, you might want to consider just splitting that up into 70-70 or 75-75. That will lower that burden. It's also going to, prevent uber superphysiologic levels of test, but not everyone can tolerate superphysiologic levels of test. Like I have discussed that as a good thing, but I should say that, I don't know, a handful, 30% maybe of guys on TRT are not going to be able to inject a bolus at once. Like the extent of their bolus is going to have to be like 60 milligrams at a time, maybe twice a week, or 60 milligrams every third day, something to this effect. If you run the former, you're going to have less estrogen conversion, which is going to ultimately be good. Yeah, you also have a bolus of HCG, looks like at the time. So that's going to do that. The estradiol being at 55 is no surprise to me because, 150 a test and a lot of HCG will do that. I have had in previous protocols 140 milligrams a week of testosterone cypionate and about 1750 IU of HCG. It was like 250 every day, just enough HCG to get enough serum HCG in the blood. Wherein 24 hours later, it's basically down to 1 or 0 milli-international units per milliliter. But at that time, my cholesterol did not move. However, when I was on 210 milligrams a week of just testosterone cypionate, that was daily subcutaneous injections, no anastrozole, no HCG. Pretty sure my LDL went up to 105, which is not terrible, but it is above range. So, some people just can't, don't really respond well to super physiologic levels or uber super physiologic. Like, there might be a threshold. Like, if you get it at 1100, the lipids may stay relatively, in the right place. You get to 1250, 1300, etc. Lipids start getting a little skewed. So, in those cases, you probably want to modify your diet a little bit to reduce some dietary cholesterol, see if that helps, otherwise you'll have to just modify your protocol. As far as blood tests, Josh is asking regarding anhedonia, not a whole lot, because unfortunately dopamine signaling is the main culprit in this case, and there's not a lot of blood tests like that. There's no blood tests. You can do urinary neurotransmitter tests, which effectively I think measure the metabolites of certain neurotransmitters to see where they are in your brain. But again, anhedonia is largely a dopamine mediated problem. And so, you're going to want to run 9-MEBC. You're going to probably want to run long cycles of Cerebrolysin to get to the bottom of that. And that's just kind of throwing everything at it. Anhedonia isn't always straightforward in terms of, solving the issue. Mel N, have you come across cases of polycythemia when on TRT? Yes. Maybe a good topic to cover in the future. Yes. It was particularly in smokers. Okay. So people who smoked cigarettes and also were on TRT. Turns out smoking causes secondary polycythemia. So in addition to that fucking super physiologic testosterone and the demand for RBCs, more hematocrit, you end up with polycythemia. Secondarily, people on just TRT, depending on their blood, how their blood functions and how their diet is and health and whatever, all the good stuff we usually talk about. These people will end up with higher hematocrit and potentially polycythemia. However, what's important to remember about this is that the scientific journals are pretty clear that the higher the estradiol you have, the higher you let it go, the more hematocrit you're going to have. Okay. That doesn't mean that test alone doesn't, trigger hematocrit rises in hematocrit, but people are going to find that here again, we've got to manage estrogen, sorry, Reddit bros, that you manage the estradiol, you keep it between 20 and 30, and you're going to have lower hematocrit. Likely. My birthday is Jesus's birthday. December 25th. No, I'm just joking. I was born, I am a Pisces. Let's just put it that way. Al 11407. Love the name, bro. It's like, are you an actual robot? AL 1407. It's like fucking this guy with a barcode, like Hitman on the back of his neck. Would you use T4, T3 mix? Bittron tablets for cutting fat. No, I personally wouldn't do that. I mean, unless you're hypothyroid, in which case, yeah, like the first thing to do just to avoid health complications and to avoid the necessity to continue having to take synthetic thyroid hormones would be to take bovine desiccated thyroid glandular tissue, the stuff that comes from Switzerland, which you can get from a company called, I think the brand name is Evolve. It's like thyroid something or other. You'll have to Amazon that or Google it. But yeah, you want to get desiccated thyroid glandular tissue, to try that first, if you want to, raise thyroid hormones, bump up your T3 a bit. Alternatively, you can just dose 400 micrograms selenium a day, but that will move the needle for some people and won't move the needle for others. So it's going to be different to different folks. Different drugs for different folks. Aaron says, tried to inhibit my pre-workout through a few years. In my 20s, but started having heart palpitations. I agree with Ryan. It's not worth the risk. Yeah, absolutely. That's the thing. It's just, it is, God, it's raising adrenaline, noradrenaline, but like, it's also, I forget the mechanism of action, but it's like inhibiting, some adrenergic, like mediated mechanism that's supposed to kind of control your levels of, adrenaline and noradrenaline, and it's like inhibiting that process. So your levels can, out of control, go high, which is going to cause panic attacks, right? When those catecholamines go above range and they stay there, that's breeding ground for panic attacks. It's actually fucking terrible. It's a terrible experience. Not only do you feel panicky and anxious, but you have brain pressure. Like, it just feels very, very bad. I felt pretty bad on Yohimbine, man. Like, again, 5 milligrams. That's why I got powder of it, because I could dose 2 or 3 and I was all right. Pretty good sweet spot. Still not optimal. 5+ and it's like problematic. JM is asking, is it okay to stack 100 milligrams of modafinil with uridine at 250 and citicoline at 250? Yeah, I think that's fine. Yeah, I mean, you might have side effects. I don't know what that's going to do to you. I don't know that I've stacked them together in those doses, but I have stacked them together. It hasn't caused like some significant issue in me personally, but I wouldn't personally dose 250 milligrams of uridine. That's overkill in my opinion for most people. You want to shoot for 150, 175 max. Some people are going to get away with like 75 milligrams of it. So I really don't see a negative interaction between modafinil and citicoline. In fact, that's a good thing, but that dose of citicoline is also too high. The only place in the world where you're going to find people suggesting doses of citicoline at 250 milligrams is, number one, inexperienced novice nootropics people on Reddit. But number two, where they're referencing, which is their research papers on the dose of choline precursors, which are usually in Alzheimer's patients, right? And people that have neurodegeneration. So of course they're going to require higher doses. The more you go on acetylcholine with, these building blocks like alpha GPC or citicoline, the more side effects you're going to have. Right? The brain likes to keep acetylcholine, which is a focus and memory neurotransmitter, very tight range. Okay, it does that via cholinesterase, among other things. The hydrolysis of acetylcholine. You go over that range and you run into problems. So I would dose them all together, sure, but not in those doses. Brother. Good question, though. Josh. Being overweight cause hormones to be high? Like free testosterone and estradiol. Free T, no. Not that I know of. Estradiol, definitely. Yeah, I mean, you're a good degree of your aromatase is in adipose tissue. So the more adipose tissue you have, the higher aromatase expression you're going to have, which means the higher conversion of testosterone to estradiol you're going to have. I mean, this is why everybody and their mother is suggesting, if you're on TRT, to be as lean as you can, to be as lean as possible, because then you will aromatize less. Okay. When I got on TRT, I was in shape, but not very toned. I'd lost like muscle because COVID and I was in a bad relationship. I wasn't fucking working out like an idiot. And, so I guess that was that. But like when I first got on TRT, I was not in the best shape, in terms of muscle mass. Like I wasn't very lean, but I wasn't fat, like by any means. I was just kind of like skinny. Like I just didn't really look like good at all. And I aromatized more initially as time went on, and, my body fat and my body composition changed very significantly. I aromatized a lot less. I still aromatize, I still require estrogen control because most people are going to, despite what you've heard on Reddit. Even me, man. I mean, I don't know what body fat percentage I am, but I'm pretty lean. I do not drink alcohol. I don't smoke pot. And I still need a little bit of an estrogen, just a little bit, to take everything down, or alternatively, again, some zinc, a little bit of calcium D-glucarate potentially. There's a lot of things that actually are pretty effective for inhibiting estradiol or lowering it. One of them, I think, I'm trying to draw the correlation and make sure that this is true before I do a video on it, is melatonin. All right. Melatonin in a particular cell done in culture, like in a study, was shown to be a pretty potent aromatase inhibitor for a short half-life. So might be something to think about. Thoughts on rhodiola? Pretty cool compound. Another adaptogen. Like, adaptogens serve to change your response to stresses. Whether that has to do with neurotransmitter balancing, it usually does, or otherwise. Body temperature. Like if you're in extreme cold conditions, adaptogens will help you to physically feel better and ultimately function better in that case. Rhodiola has some mechanisms on serotonin action. I forget exactly what they are, so be wary of that. The more that you increase serotonin concentrations, the more problems you're bound to run into, like sexual dysfunction and increased levels of prolactin. So, tread carefully, tread lightly. I mean, I'd low dose the stuff, see how you feel. You might have energy. Some people have energy on rhodiola. Okay. And you might like end up feeling like really, really good and have no side effects. Your mileage is going to vary, brother. All right. Protocol for fixing leaky gut. I mean, the usual suspects. You want to get some glutamine in, probably take some bone broth, some collagen powder. Ultimately, though, it's like these things arise for a reason. So you've got to come to understand what reasons you've got permeability in your fucking intestine, right? What is that? Why are you having, these gaps in the, what the fuck is it called? I forget. These tight junctions that are supposed to close, but somehow you have gaps, and like foodstuffs can travel and end up in your bloodstream, and you release these pretty invasive or pretty nefarious compounds called lipopolysaccharides, which cause all kinds of inflammation. So you got to find what's at the root of it, man. I mean, these days, like my go-to for gut problems is look at whether or not you have H. pylori. And if you test negative for it, doesn't mean you don't have it. Because if you do, and you start taking something like mastic gum, it's going to change your life. Yeah, because it's going to knock down the numbers of H. pylori to a reasonable amount where you ultimately may not have symptoms. A lot of people's digestive issues are caused by H. pylori. Even people that think they have SIBO, they've never tested for it. You never pop positive on a hydrogen or methane breath test for SIBO, but you think you have SIBO. Maybe you have H. pylori. Take some mastic gum, see if it helps. Josh, what would you say causes the effective E2 to stay away from what foods? Yeah, that's a difficult one. I mean, some foods will actually bind to the ERB, ERA receptors and trigger estrogen genetic action. Hard to tell, what those foods, anything estrogenic, I'd want to watch out for. Soy especially, obviously. Likely high doses of dairy could probably do that. Diet wise, I think it's less about avoiding certain things and recognizing like the best diet for, everything, health, reducing aromatization, feeling good is just eat a real foods diet. I mean, have an egg and a couple pieces of bacon, and an English muffin in the morning, completely fine. But that's real food, right? You're getting a lot of nutrients from both the bacon and the eggs, including the monounsaturated fat from the bacon, which, people think it's strictly saturated and that causes heart disease. It's nonsense. Monounsaturated fat protects against heart disease. So you got a good degree of that in bacon. Additionally, though, I mean, have a salad with some chicken for lunch. If you're hungry, I really don't eat a lunch, just a snack, carrots, some dip, whatever. Dinner time, protein like beef, salmon, chicken, pork, a tuber, sweet potato, white potato, like yucca root potentially, and maybe a plantain, and a vegetable. Alternatively, beef, salmon, chicken, and then vegetable and like rice or something. I mean, my diet is so boring that it's ridiculous, but I feel great and function really good, and it's actually really good. And I do have to cheat to get some variation, and that's like once a week. I'll go out to a restaurant, eat something stupid. I'll feel a little, subpar for maybe 20 something hours, then I'm back to normal, but replenishes leptin, gives me a break from what is otherwise a pretty mundane diet. But the mundaneness of my diet is what keeps me very healthy and aromatizing less. So those would be my suggestions. I don't believe that inositol or D-chiroinositol is really going to be substantial for boosting testosterone. Nope. A lot of the natural stuff you got to take in combination. So you'd have to be running, if this has any effect on that, inositol, like plus pine pollen and plus high dose Cistanche, and maybe some high dose fenugreek. You'd have to be taking L-carnitine L-tartrate to upregulate the androgen receptors. Mucuna purines to increase luteinizing hormone, Fedosia agrestis to mimic luteinizing hormone. There's a lot of things that you can do supplementally, but you got to be doing them at the same time in order to get a more than marginal increase in testosterone levels. Zinc, pretty effective for increasing testosterone. But again, vitamin D, same. You got to have it all in one. That's what I was doing before I got on TRT, and it was working for a while. And then as I aged, it worked less. So I was like, okay, time to make the jump. Time to make the jump, boys. AL 1407, the robots, the actual AI. Says for somebody who's used finasteride success for the years and zero to minimal side effects, what considerations do they consider before starting TRT? Not a whole lot. Not a whole lot at all. I mean, if you're one of those lucky people that doesn't get severe sexual dysfunction from finasteride, TRT is going to do nothing but help you. Yeah, that's it. And that I've gotten a lot of negative comments about that, like finasteride doesn't. Yeah, bro. I'm the guy that's gotten, I can't even count amount of men that come to me and their lives are ruined from taking finasteride. They have no erections, they have no libido, they have fucking anhedonia. It's as if they had taken a high dose of citalopram for 5 years and then suddenly got off. They have PSSD basically. So, otherwise known as PFS, which is a fucking studied disorder and a real disorder. So it does happen, but some people it doesn't. I'd wager if your androgens are in a good place and you're monitoring that or on TRT, you have a lot less chance of running into that issue. I don't know which form of zinc is best to take for absorption. I've got to study that because I've not been into zinc very recently or in the past, except for recently discovering that it's like it prevents the SHBG from binding to estradiol to an extent, which equals less estradiol transport to the tissues. At the same time, it is preventing ERA receptor activation to some extent via contributing zinc ions to the zinc finger, which controls DNA transactivation, genetic activity. So zinc does lower estradiol. I'm just trying to pinpoint whether or not it's the SHBG mechanism or whether or not it's this DNA mechanism, this genetic mechanism that is preventing it from, that's causing, you to have less estradiol side effects. But it does fucking work. You got to dose it pretty high, 50 milligrams a day or so. You can get away with 100, or correction, you can get away with 25 milligrams a day of zinc to lower estradiol if your TRT dose is low enough and if you don't aromatize a lot. Otherwise, you're doing everything you can. Best ways to reset from a poor diet: cardio and many days on a better diet. And you'll start to reset thereafter. Josh, how can I calculate encapsulating 9-ABC? I do have 0 capsules in a machine for, but it seems like when I weigh it out, it doesn't seem like a lot to fit in the capsule. Yeah, I mean, you can just get a single 0 capsule or one of those very small capsules. That's all. That's all I would do. Like when I was running my 9-ABC cycle, I'd weigh out 20 milligrams 9-ABC on the scale, and I would, take a double. I only have 0 capsules. And I'd literally just kind of pinch them together on the scale over the powder to get the powder in there. That's it. It doesn't have to be any more complex than that. Jay, this is by far the most underrated channel on YouTube. Love it, brother. Thank you. Aussie from Australia. Love it, brother. Hope you guys are, man, your guy. Who's your guy? The fuck's his name? Volk. Volkanovski. Oh, I hope he has a winning streak moving forward. When these guys lose, it tells them that they can lose, and then they lose that confidence and they end up losing. It's just one of those things. 444. 444. Just still can't get over. You're from Pittsburgh. I'm from South Jersey. All right. So I'm from fucking Jersey, baby. But and then Jersey, PA, Texas, the Army, Iraq. But ultimately, my roots are in the tri-state area. But I moved to Pittsburgh in 2021, late 2021, after leaving a relationship in near Philadelphia area. And it was one of the best things I've ever done in my whole life. It's one of the best things I've done in my life, besides join the military, and get into all this biohacking stuff. It's like the third best thing. Because this city, you never really run out of stuff to do. And stuff that you've done 100 times are still fun. In the spring, summer, fall, there are endless places to get exercise. And there are a lot of cool young people here that are also exercising outside. Like when I go to near the Steelers and Pirates Stadium, that's called the North Shore, there are people exercising all the time. And I love it. Like, I love the energy. I hate going in the winter and doing it because nobody's fucking out there, right? Because it's too cold. I go and there's 100 people on the trail I'm on. It's beautiful. I love Pittsburgh. I honestly will never leave. I will probably never leave. I might do Florida half the year, but I don't think I'll leave this place. Isn't that crazy? Like, you move somewhere. Okay, I don't know where it's going to be. Like, you love it so much, you feel like you'll never leave. Move to Pittsburgh. It's one of the greatest cities in the world. Honestly, it's one of the greatest cities. I've been to New York, I've been to Philadelphia. They both suck, honestly. Pittsburgh's great. Oron took some mastic gum and got bloated. Digestion felt stalled. What protocol is best for using this supplement? I maybe just need to give it more time, lower the dose, up the dose. It's a difficult one to say. Maybe you do have H. pylori and it responded negatively. Like, it responded in a way which tried to, upregulate itself in response to what was ultimately attempting to kill it. But hard to say, man. I don't know what your digestive system is like. So generally, mastic gum is good for digestive issues, assuming H. pylori is the problem, which it usually is, even though you test negative for it. Educate up, brother. Educate up. Where's the beard? Yeah, I know. It's such a pain in the ass. Is that Putin? What's up, Putin? Yeah, brother. So what happened was I just tried to trim it one day, just like I do every 7 days or 5 days or whatever. And I put the extension on a 1 instead of a 10 on my beard trimmer. 1 is like near skin. 10 is like a very little bit of a trim. So I put it on the wrong extension like an idiot, like I wasn't paying attention. I really, really thoroughly regret it because I just shaved one little, I'm like, okay, just trimming. And then it turned out it was on 1 and it cut a whole patch up right here. Like this whole patch was like skin. And then I had the rest of my big beard. So I'm looking at it. I sat for about 3 hours and was like, do I trim the rest of it kind of short? Like, do I leave it? It looked like I had a deformed face, honestly, because it was like this weird visual illusion because half of it was gone here and the rest of the beard was like, I got to shave it. I got to shave it and look like I'm 7 years old again, for about a week. It's been 6 days, she's coming back strong and hard. Next Saturday, I'll feel, like 40, like I'm 40 years old again, rather than fucking 8. Yeah, I believe picolinate is one of the most effective or highly absorbable versions of zinc. I just don't know which one is absolutely best, so I can't really give you an answer there. All right, Joe Isaac is saying, what is your suggestion? 9-MeBC or Cerebrolysin for dopamine neuron damage, and also high prolactin? Definitely 9-MeBC. Yeah, 9-MeBC. In fact, I want to show you guys something about that, which I think you're going to find pretty interesting. Just give me a second here. What is happening here? Wow, I'm having like the craziest tech issues today. I mean, there's nothing preventing me from signing in. I don't understand. Why are you being this way, Quest? Anyway, when I was on my 9-MeBC cycle, my prolactin went down to 1.9. I think it was 1.9 nanograms per milliliter, which is actually low. It is on the low end of the threshold, which it was about 6 or something last check when that happened. When it was happening. So okay, nothing crazy, like pretty low already, but running 9-MeBC took it down to 1.9. I just got prolactin again. I'm trying to access my blood results, but Quest is graying out for some fucking very wonderfully delightful reason. Thank you for doing that to me. Now continue, asshole. What the fuck is this? Okay, I'm not gonna be able to figure it out. And my prolactin is 3.5 nanograms per milliliter. So, you know, like, God, I stopped my 90BC cycle sometime early in this month, and the prolactin's gone up 2 points, literally 2 points. It's now 3.9. It was 1.9. That's it. That's all it went up. So 9-MeBC will lower prolactin, okay, for sure. If you've got dopamine neuron damage, if you think you do, which is hard to diagnose because a lot of things mimic that, then I'd be running 9-MeBC. No, like if you run that for 2 cycles and you don't have alleviation of your issue, number one, it's not dopamine, or number two, it is, but you need more signaling optimization, and you probably should then bring the pig brain neurotrophic factors in which case you would dose Cerebrolysin. I'm on, I think, day 9 or something of Cerebrolysin. Yeah, day 8 or 9. Yeah, I think it's day 9. I've got an additional 19 or 11 days or something left. I'm doing 2 milliliters a day, intramuscular in my thigh, the vastus lateralis. No pain, low gauge needle, which does suck, but it's really fucking not a problem. Remember, I mean, when you went to the doc and whatever, like you got, it was always a lower gauge needle. They're fine, you know. Everybody's gotten so spoiled with TRT, like TRT needles, you know, insulin syringes, basically, that you know they can't do the big boys anymore. It's like it's okay to do the big boys, guys. It's really okay. Let me see if Edge will let me do this. I'm just fucking curious here. Okay. 444. We grew up in Pittsburgh. Yeah, brother. Where are you now? How did you leave? Because the rumor is, if you live in Pittsburgh, if you're from here, you always end up coming back here. You either don't leave, or you end up coming back here. So I don't know why you left, brother. I don't know why you left. Because I won't leave. I will not leave the city. It's too awesome. All right. Andres says, I look good with the stubble. Okay. Thank you, brother. Yeah, you know, you always have a different representation of like how you look versus how people look at you and think that you look, you know? So, yeah, for me, I honestly hate it. I don't like it at all. Like, it makes me look far younger than I want to. It, like, fucking seemingly changes, like, the look of my jawline. It's like, whatever. I don't know. I don't love it. I don't love it, boys. I really don't love it. I don't love it. Yeah. So, yeah, this is what I wanted to show you guys. If I could get this on the screen. Finally figured out Quest, which was being an absolute jerk. Right, so that's my prolactin right now. And this was run yesterday morning. And it's 3.5 nanograms per milliliter. So that's great. Very low. Refractory period, still pretty fucking great. It was at 1.9 last check. And that was in dosing 9-MeBC. So since cessation of dosing of 9-MeBC, it started to go up, you know, whatever. It'll probably bottom out at between, if I could estimate, 8 to 13 nanograms per milliliter. Really doesn't go above that. However, I am now on a cycle of Schisandra, okay? The God chemical, which we're going to talk about probably Monday on a big breakdown of it. And Schisandra lowers prolactin as well. So I imagine, you know, it's not going to go higher than that. Most definitely not. Why does Adderall cause anhedonia? Because it's depleting dopamine levels. That's why. Doctor told me at the time it would not cause PSSD, which was a lie. Yeah, you've got a depletion of dopamine that you've got to get to the bottom of. And probably some dopamine neuron damage, maybe some dopamine projection site malfunction. So you're not projecting dopamine adequately. That's what I'd say. I got a question about, looks like Cerebrolysin. Cerebrolysin, where you said attempting 2 milliliters a day for 20 days. And the video said that Cerebrolysin has to be injected deep IM. So why not shallow or subcutaneous? Because it's not suggested to do shallow, intramuscular, or subcutaneous. That is an internet bro thing. Not saying it doesn't work. Sub-Q works. That's been studied. Shallow IM has never been studied ever. Anecdotally, I've had good experiences with shallow IM on TRT, so it does work. There's somebody who works in imaging, like doing MRIs, who demonstrated that the typical insulin syringe injected into like your thigh, and this was the thigh. I don't think this was ventral glute. Will penetrate the muscle. It's not deep though, so it goes to the basically the outer layers of the muscle and penetrates. So you have more blood vessels there. So it will permeate, throughout your body like effectively, but it's not the same as deep intramuscular in my opinion. The feels are different for TRT with deep intramuscular versus shallow IM. And Cerebrolysin is not, look, if you're trying to get the maximized benefit from what is ultimately one of the most potent neurogenic, neurotrophic factor optimizing agents ever that is used for people to restore their fucking brains post-stroke, you don't want to be doing bro shit. You want to inject it intramuscularly. Just bite the bullet and do it. If you're afraid of intramuscular needles, like you're going to have to get over that. 444 from Pittsburgh to Denver. Family issues. It's going to change. Yeah, I understand why you miss Pittsburgh, bro. And good luck putting your life back together. How do you compare Cerebrolysin to Cyclist T-Max and C? Like, not comparable. Cerebrolysin's much better in my opinion for the subjective feels and for all the effects, memory, verbal fluency. I'm a better keyboard and mouse gamer when I take it. I instantly get the urge to, kind of like how racetams treat me, to do something cognitively demanding when I have Cerebrolysin in my regimen. It's pretty awesome, guys. It's really, really, really pretty awesome. So, by the way, that was the Prolactin reading when I was on, it was 1.7 when I was on 9-MeBC. So, okay, that's the 9-MeBC Prolactin reading. And then off of 9-MeBC, not having taken Schisandra yet, my Prolactin reading was the following. And this was taken yesterday, 3.5. Just some food for thought. Trey's been getting multiple sinus infections my whole life. Per year, my entire life. Been able to reduce them, not eliminate them. Any idea to fix this? Hard one. Yeah, I don't know. I honestly don't know. Some people are just genetically susceptible to that. Digestive disorders cause sinus symptoms, right, via silent reflux. So you might not have actual reflux, which silent reflux is characterized by. It's like vapors and it's gastric contents that aren't acid that end up in your throat and your nasal passages, like the whole sinus system, which trigger sinus issues. So might want to look into that. Otherwise, couldn't help you. I mean, there's probably mechanisms that are unrelated to the gut that are contributing to that. What supplements or foods are good for anti-aging and looking younger in general? Largely genetics, honestly. That's honestly the best thing. I mean, eating well. Look, the more vegetables you eat, the more colorful your skin's going to be. Like the more orangey reddish it's going to be, whereas you're going to look a little pale and fucked up if you're not eating a lot of vegetables. That's just my opinion, but I think it's true. Yeah, colorful vegetables, eat real food, eat as much real food as possible. You can't go wrong if you're trying to optimize how you feel and some blood markers by just eating real food, right? The less frankenfood, like that you eat, like, dude, if you look at even a sandwich that you get from 7-Eleven or Wawa and you look at the ingredients, there's just, dude, I mean, there's 37, dude. There's 37 ingredients in the Wawa sandwich. 30 fucking 7. From stabilizers to preservatives to whatever. Best thing you can do is eat real foods to look younger. And maybe shave your beard. Because apparently I look younger. Most noticeable nootropic? Most noticeable? I mean, that'd probably be a mix between torque. Because like we built this thing to be the most noticeable. So, torque by itself, man, modafinil, extremely noticeable. Man, interestingly, picamilin's very noticeable on the GABA side. L-theanine, pretty noticeable. Adrafinil, I noticed like in fucking 20 minutes, interestingly. Aniracetam, I noticed very, very quickly. Citicoline, uridine, I noticed very quickly. Tyrosine, very noticeable. Yeah, Alcar, pretty noticeable. A little subtle, but still noticeable. Josh is saying, would you say someone that's overweight would switch to test E or cream? NF8 will be slightly better than cypionate in regards to less constant peak of androgen, so a little less aromatization, or at least less exposure to estradiol to tissues. Cream would, in fact, be better than both of those esters because you have more DHT conversion, especially if you're applying it scrotally. And that DHT conversion essentially antagonizes some of the, the genetic action of estradiol after it binds to the ERA and ERB receptors. So, I mean, DHT in and of itself is pretty anti-estrogenic. So, on cream, like when I ran cream, like as an experiment, I didn't need an AI then. I don't think. Yeah. Everything just worked really good. But cream, if you want, like I said on a recent video, if you want to feel what super physiologic test feels like in under 2 hours or 2 hours or so to peak, do cream. It's a little much, even for me. It's a little much. Okay. That's why cream is just not ideal. Testosterone propionate, right? Or upcoming, I'm running testosterone enanthate. Even though my protocol's dialed in, you would think I'm an idiot, right? I just like to change things and see. And propionate, the PIP really sucks. Are my go-tos. If cream didn't make me feel as almost like I've taken yohimbine, like potently overstimulated, I would use that because the sexual function is better on cream. It definitely is. Okay. If you're on IBC, would you want to stay away from caffeine, nicotine, Cialis? Cialis, no, that's fine. Modafinil, probably, yes. You don't want to take modafinil when you're on IBC. Too much elevated neurotransmitters at that point could cause a problem. Caffeine is fine, but it'll probably be stronger after day 5 and 9 IBC. Nicotine, I really don't see an issue with it. I dosed nicotine patch twice, 7 milligram patch when I was running 9 IBC. Noticeable difference in terms of energy, but nothing bad happened. Hello H. Huperzine semi-daily. You're probably going to run into overage of acetylcholine. That'd be too much. Nice haircut, by the way. Oh, I haven't gotten a cut. I just have the Clark Kent thing going on here. I don't know how that happened. Okay. MV, hello Ryan. Would you combine 9-ABC and bromontane to make boring work more enjoyable? Create new habits. Yeah, you could do that. Anything dopamine mediated. Like, look, to an extent, like you will modify your propensity to want to do work, like certain work that you otherwise hate, by modifying dopamine. You'll just be a little more interested in it. But if you hate that work, not a whole lot you can do, You just kind of gotta understand that, all right? You just gotta understand it, Try to hit a home run every time maybe you get to second base, maybe you get to Falcon third, all right? Maybe you get nowhere, maybe you strike out. Any downside to taking daily theanine? Daily, I really don't see a problem with daily theanine. Unless it ends up causing you some low blood pressure issue or an otherwise issue, I don't really see an issue with that. I don't see a problem with it. Brother, thoughts on low dosing HGH in the AM versus bed? I prefer daytime due to concerns related to shutting down exogenous production of growth hormone. Not a whole lot that I can say about it. Not a huge expert on it. I think you got to be careful because it could cause you fucking fatigue if your dose is wrong. Unless you absolutely need to be dosing HGH, I wouldn't. If otherwise, if you really want to, you're going to have to get advice from a bodybuilder about that because they're much more versed in it than I am. Yeah. Otherwise, looking at the secretagogues would be probably better and more sustainable. Yes, I still take phenylparacetam. Earlier this month, it was like, I can't give an exact date. Somewhere at the beginning of April, I took some phenylparacetam hydrazide, 75 milligrams is my dose. Feel really good on this stuff. Really, really good. Helps my workouts too. Dude, people don't know, like regular Joes don't know about this stuff. That alone is one of the best chemicals you could ever take. Safe, not liver toxic, gives you some elevated dopamine, optimizes physical performance, optimizes acetylcholine. Pretty cool chemical. Huperzine with 9-BBC. I think you could get away with it. I wouldn't do that though. Again, if you haven't heard me say this before, if you're running 9-MEBC or Cerebrolysin or Cortexin or Dihexa, the powerful neurogenic agents, you don't really want to be running anything else with it. Number one, you want to be able to distinguish between the effects you're getting from these other things and the 9-MeBC. And 9-MeBC is a restorative compound. You use it in that manner. Okay. You can take it acutely and it will give you an elevated neurotransmitter-like feeling because of the monoamine oxidase inhibition, but which means elevated neurotransmitters, ultimately, less clearance of neurotransmitters. But you want to generally run it on a cycle to restore things. While you're doing that, dosing it with anything else, like, this is a cholinergic in this case, it's either overkill or not a good idea. You don't know how it's gonna interact. Because you're elevating neurotransmitters like acetylcholine when you have 9-MeBC in the picture, because you have less clearance of neurotransmitters via the monoamine oxidase inhibition of 9-MeBC. Adding extra choline, which Huperzine is going to do via preventing choline hydrolysis and metabolism, is probably going to give you side effects. So though it may sound fun in theory, it is not a great idea. Yep. I have learned over the years, like I've gotten bit by many experiments just to be a little fucking conservative. You know, you should try that too. Heavy exams in a period which require lots of memorization and recall. Okay, so don't take 9-MeO-BC for exams. Take Adrafinil and oxiracetam and a little bit of choline. You'll be fine. And then maybe some teacrine for energy in that case. All right, what's the best way to use collagen? Yeah, a scoop a day. Just a scoop a day in water is honestly the best way. Interestingly, aromatase inhibitor-induced joint pain, arthralgia, can be pretty alleviated by taking collagen. It's one of the secrets of the TRT world. That and strontium. Strontium increases bone mineral density and is actually pretty effective for people that are on TRT for preventing anastrozole-induced joint problems. At the same time, as we talked about in the beginning, you could just high dose zinc and lower your dose of test a little bit, or keep the dose the same depending on where it is. And melatonin at night. I'm still in the process of confirming just how strong melatonin is as an aromatase inhibitor. Okay. But it looks like for a short duration, like a short half-life, there is some aromatase inhibition with melatonin. Zinc, though, isn't an AI. I've not found anything to substantiate that. Okay. One paper that examine.com is referencing does not tell us that at all. What zinc is doing relative to estradiol is pretty interesting in that it is preventing the SHBG. It's like lowering the affinity for SHBG to estradiol, which means less estrogen transport to the receptors, still some free estradiol. So hard to say how that interacts, but you ultimately end up with less estradiol at the tissue level, I think. Still got to substantiate this and do a breakdown on it. In addition to that, stops transactivation, genetic action, post-ERA receptor binding. Zinc does by contributing zinc ions to the zinc finger. Pretty fucking fascinating stuff, boys. Tribulus, not really. Maybe upregulates androgen receptors a little bit as far as I remember. Again, these singular compounds are only good in conjunction with other compounds that, are known to modify testosterone. Again, vitamin D, pine pollen, fenugreek, Tribulus potentially, Phaedogia agrestis, all at the same time. Those are the kinds of things that are going to raise testosterone meaningfully. Best way to lower SHBG, best way? Probably take Proviron. That'd be the best way to lower SHBG. It's going to lower. You take Proviron, it's going to lower. No question. But you've got to have a connect for that because it's, it's not prescribed here in the States, which is ridiculous. I'd love for it to be prescribed. I've had to, use a guy that knows a guy. This is a guy that knows a fucking guy, right? No, this is what it is. All right, best supplements to increase free testosterone naturally. Probably fenugreek. Free testosterone. Maybe boron would lower SHBG a bit and increase free testosterone. That'd be my suggestion. MV is currently trying 9-MeO-BC and uridine triacetate. You mean triacetyluridine? I think that's the same thing. And citicoline, should I drop the CDP? No, I think that's fine. I don't just, running it again. If you're just trying to see, okay, does this give me some acutely good brain performance? And maybe it does. Okay. Then you recognize that works and you can use it downstream. Like when you need brain performance, like this stack. Generally though, you don't want to combine other things with 9-MeO-BC. Not because it'll give you some crazy side effects, but for 9-MeO-BC, you're trying to restore dopamine neurons. And so doing other things in the meantime may interact with that. It may prevent that from happening. You really don't know. Probably not, but you never know. But could cause additional side effects. Remember, 9-MeO-BC will keep other neurotransmitters around longer. So if you're bringing in choline in addition to 9-MeO-BC, you might run an overage of choline. If you're trying this and you feel fine, great. But remember, 9-MeO-BC is not something you should continue taking. You run it for a cycle. You determine if it's got benefits for you. You stop the cycle. You run the cycle again, potentially down the line, maybe a couple times a year. Don't take it ongoingly. Good protocol to microdose psilocybin. Fuck, man. 200 milligrams every third day is really what you're looking at. Yeah, that's it. Works really well for verbal fluency. It makes sense. Yeah, it does a lot of crazy good things. I haven't had my hands on it, so I don't, whatever. And I don't care to just randomly do it again. My last experience with psilocybin was a bad one because I took too much of it. And I was in a terrible relationship where you know, my brain was getting the better of me because a lot of negative rumination. So I didn't have a good time, but microdosing is fine. And I've done a lot of it, you know, 4 years ago I had a stint and I had an interesting time. It was pretty good. But protocol would be 200 milligrams every third day. I was thinking about combining dopamine and acetylcholine, but I'll wait till I stop now. NBC. Yeah, I would if I were you. I mean, you could take a B complex with a little bit of choline in it to optimize that system in the meantime. Mark is tapering from phenibut use. Oh, sorry, brother. Sorry that you're having to go through that. Struggling with an imbalance in GABA glutamate. Would Nootropic be beneficial considering neuromodulatory effects? Somewhat. You probably have a better time on oxiracetam, which is a cyclic GABA derivative. You are welcome. Thanks for the super chat. Bro. Josh, I was looking at consultations. Which one would be best to hop on for anhedonia? How long would it take to get out of anhedonia? You have to have the budget for these things, man. I mean, I have learned at this stage that I can't be doing 1 month or even 3 months for like these bigger issues. Like, sure, we want the business, but I need 6 months to try things, run labs, give the brain time to restore, you know? So and if you've got the budget, go 6 months. And yes, PSSD, you know, we could include in that. Yeah, PSSD is a difficult one. You're going to need a long time for that. I know that's not good to hear because, you know, that's the coaching programs, the big ones are designed for people that have the budget that want to embark upon what is a 3 to 6 month journey, sometimes more, to really get to the bottom of hardcore shit and fix things, you know, or just optimize the hell out of testosterone, neurotransmitter function, all that stuff, dopamine, etc. How can I get the most out of tyrosine for a mood boost and increased drive? I don't know how you can really optimize the effect of tyrosine. You would take bromontane with it. Okay, bromontane increases the efficacy and the potency of all other dopaminergics, including amphetamines. Very, very powerful stuff. You're welcome, brother. NAC causes extreme tiredness and burnout. Any solutions? Don't take NAC. Yeah, NAC can have wacky effects in people, and I'm not entirely sure what the mechanism of action for that is. But it can be a problem. It can be problematic for folks. So, you know, if you're getting some weird response from it, try to find another route to do what you're trying to do with NAC. I'm not sure what you're trying to do with NAC, but there's probably another way to address what you're trying to do. Thoughts on nicotine pouches like Zyn? I have taken them before. I don't know. I don't like how it feels. I just don't like any oral nicotine. Like it just doesn't. I don't know. The gum. It's like it. You know. It breaks open after a while, and you get this burst of what is nicotine, and it's like you swallow it. It kind of tastes a little fucked up, feels a little fucked up. So I didn't really love the pouches. Patches are, you know, my thing. Honestly, love it. How to increase GABA level on receptors? The best way to increase GABA receptor function would be to temporarily antagonize GABA A or GABA B. That's really the best way to upregulate receptors. Secondarily, you could try running a cycle of cerebrolysin. You know, neurotrophic factors go and regulate all kinds of things. Like nerve growth factor signaling is like involved in like prevention of tumors in the brain, among other things, and that those things can go awry. But neurotransmitters rely heavily on the maintenance of those systems rely heavily on neurotrophic factors. If you took cerebrolysin, you'd have pig brain neurotrophic factors, which mimic your inherent and born neurotrophic factors, which would do a lot of reparative stuff. I'm on day 9 or 10 of cerebrolysin now. This is my second cycle. My brain is very alive, very, very alive. I'm having more vivid dreams, in addition to the cognitive benefits that I explained on the video that was launched 2 days ago. How long does it take for Nootropic to start working? 15, 20 minutes. If it's not working, you know, the dose is wrong. It's negatively interacting with you at some capacity or something. But when it works, and it should work right away, 15, 20 minutes. You might be metabolizing it slowly. I really don't. People also have, you know, different metabolization like time frames. You know, people that get groggy from taking melatonin the next day, you're metabolizing it slower. You got to take it at 7 p.m. instead of bedtime. So people metabolize things differently, boys. People just do. All right. I don't know what you guys are doing today. Let's see. What is the weather? Weather today. I know it's like kind of rainy today. It looks like it's going to rain all day. Is it? God, that would suck. Precipitation. Well, maybe it goes down later in the day. Huh. Crapola, bro. Yeah. Pretty warm though. We're right there. We're on the cusp, boys. We're like, spring is here. It's officially here whatever. I mean, May 1 should really be pretty consistently spring. Shit. All right, boys, I'm going to end the stream. Great questions. I hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend. I've got a full breakdown, all right, coming this week on the God chemical, Schisandra. This stuff not only improves erectile function with a real novel mechanism of action in penile tissue, but it lowers prolactin, and it's got a bunch of other neurologically enhancing dopamine restoring effects to it that you can even find a lot of anecdotals in the Nootropic subreddit about. Okay, so I'm going to do a full breakdown on the God molecule, Schisandra. It's something no one talks about. I'm going to popularize it because the stuff is magical. I will also be doing a breakdown on zinc and the SHBG binding effects, the estrogen receptor alpha modifying properties of it regarding estradiol on TRT, because it's not an aromatase inhibitor. I can't find like a way to validate that in the literature at all. But I will be breaking that down probably this week. Specials on product. Cortex Stack is 25% off. Codes in the description. Torque Stack, 35% off. Best nootropic you'll ever get your hands on for daily use. 35% off in the description of this video. Coaching programs, okay? I'm probably 6 slots away from being booked for the entire spring, summer, okay? So for those of you thinking about getting on, you've got to do it as soon as you can. Because as much as I don't want to turn business down, I'm going to have to close those down if I'm overbooked because I can't get people attention. Thanks for being here, guys. I appreciate your questions. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Look forward to content coming this week. Let's go. All right.